Hello, everybody, and welcome to tonight's Get in Tune. I am Michael Gracia, and once again, I have a great show planned. This is, at the moment, the final week of ASAP Imagination team members. I'm sure I'll be bringing more back, and some of them I'm sure will be repeating because I have had a great conversation with everybody and have gotten along and think these people are awesome. And I don't have a doubt tonight's guest is awesome as well. Uh, she is the editor in chief. She is a writer for ASAP Imagination. Let's bring on Laurie Cunningham. Hello.
Hi.
Thank you for joining us tonight.
Thank you for having me.
So you're part of ASAP Imagination. We've had, if I didn't do the comic book shop this month for a special event, I would have done a whole month and had another ASAP person on.
Yeah.
I want
we
to
tend
say,
to do the takeovers.
no, listen, it's great, you guys. What Hades, started to develop, and I know you were in there in the early stages as well, and everything. I think what you guys are doing is really fantastic for the independent comic community. I need to say that. I've said it every show, and I absolutely mean it. I have had talks with Hades privately through like Instagram and a couple, and I think we did one, just video chat where we weren't live and just talk. Awesome guy, awesome stuff. And I love what you guys represent.
Cool, thanks.
So I just want to say hi to Dylan in the audience, and excuse me. Sorry about that. Hope that doesn't happen again.
Oh wait, I have like a vicious cough that it will definitely make appearance.
Okay, if it happens, it happens.
I'll try to mic myself because it's hard with live shows. The pre-recorded ones, I'm just like, edit this out, please. But like, not much you can do.
No, it happens. It happens. So let's start off how I always start off. Tell me a little bit about yourself. What got you into comics? Who are some of you're a writer, so who are some of your writing inspirations? Doesn't have to be comics either. Doesn't even have to be a writer. It could be artwork you saw that inspired a story in your head. What? Tell us about that.
So I feel where to start in that part. I feel like I'll start in the middle with how I got into comics, which is Hades. He's the corruptor, as I refer to him. When I grew up, I did Archies and like Calvin and Hobbes and Garfield and stuff, but I never really considered myself a comic fan per se. Like I watched like Spider-Man and Ninja Turtles and stuff, like more so the shows.
Mm-hmm.
But I never really like got into comics. And then I met Hades online through Twitter, and he was obviously a huge comic nerd. We just like got along really well. And he started like kind of like, we wanted to do some kind of project together. And I was more writing prose at the time. I was trying to be a novelist. It wasn't going like super well. It wasn't going like bad, but I like had kind of switched into short stories because I found out I was like really good at writing like 10,000 words. And then it's kind of like, now what? So I kind of switched into short stories. And so we were going to do a project together. But in the meantime, he was trying to like put his first comic book out there. And he'd kind of done submit it to some publishers and stuff. And the classic, there's a lot of competition out there. So eventually he was just like, screw it. Let's do it. I'm going to do it myself. Like, which is very, very what he does. And I was kind of just on the sidelines, like cheering him on. And when we first met, I was about 5 months pregnant. So I was kind of like eased off writing. Wasn't kind of sure whether I should be like looking for a job still or like, because I've been laid off recently too. So it was like a whole bunch of like stressful change in my life. But I met him and we just got along, and then we were going to do a project together, and nothing really came out of it. We were just kind of chatting, and we were both kind of doing our own thing. And then I had my kid, and then eventually I was still trying to write, and he was like, well, do you want to just like do this project finally? Because we'd always been talking about doing an anthology based around like an event, and there'd be a whole bunch of different perspectives of different people experiencing this one event. And he was like, well, in my comic book world, I have something literally called The Event. Like, what if we do it in the comic book world? And I was just kind of like, I was in postpartum depression and all that stuff. And I'm like, that's crazy. That's a bad idea. And then he's very convincing and very passionate, and I'm like very impressionable. So I was suddenly like, before we had finished the conversation, like he pitched it to me on the phone, and I was at the start, I was like reluctant, and by the end of the conversation, I was like, I have my first story. So I'm like, I guess we're doing this. So we started doing this, and eventually he like picked a day to release it, and it was like this like, I feel like that was the first time where we like I can't remember if he had chosen the name of the company ASAP yet, but that was the first moment where I'm like, oh, we do ASAP. It's like definitely how we roll with things. So we like got stuff out there, and it was near the end of the when we were like doing some final editing, because we kind of written our stories separately and then brought them together, and we were meshing up our timeline so the stories connected. And there was one of my stories where I'm like, the timeline just doesn't make sense. So I had to like delete the second half of it, and then we were brainstorming and trying to figure it out. And then eventually we came up with an idea, and I like wrote it, and he's like, this is a comic book character. And in my head, I'm like, neat. Like, what does that mean to me? Well, here's the cough. Sorry. But yeah, so I'm gonna need to drink some water with that one.
Go for it.
Hopefully this isn't like how it's gonna be tonight. That like tickle came on quick.
Well,
so yeah,
I'll just let you know, I keep my water next to me at the whole time. That's all I do is drink water.
Fair. So. Yeah, I just need the little like camelback or like the little hat. But sorry guys. Yeah, so he's kind of like, I was kind of like, neat, what does that mean? And he's like, well, you should write a comic book. And again, I was like, no, that's crazy. Like, this is supposed to be a one-off project. Like, comics are your thing. Like, you do. I'm like more than happy to support you. And then it was kind of like, well, say hypothetically I were to do this. Like, what would it look like? And then like he kind of talked about it, and then suddenly I was writing a comic book, and then that I feel like that was where the dominoes like officially started, and it's like, and I'm just like fully in it, like editor-in-chief, comic books, and like just fully immersed in it. So. Yeah, that was great. That's how I got into comics.
And well, first of all, what was the first story you did with Hades?
So in our anthology, so when we first did it, we were like not telling anyone what we did, because we were like we didn't really want people to just like if someone we knew, like, I'm only going to read your stories or something. We kind of wanted to like keep people guessing, and that mischievous part of us, we're like, we're not going to tell people who wrote what. And we've actually still kept through that. But because one of my comic book came out there, people know I wrote Sister Grimm. And the story in the anthology was Angel of Death. And then the one that's tied to it is actually from her daughter's perspective as they're fleeing London. And it's called Sweet Dreams. And that was actually the very first, that was the one where I'm just like about to get off the phone with him. I was like, I had my first idea. So the cat's out of the bag on those two. Who wrote those two?
Well, I mean, listen, that's a great way to get in to the industry. And I mean, listen, all independent. I gotta say, I'm not anti-publisher, but I'm happy to see when people get together and start creating their own company, putting their own books together. Two friends of mine who have been on the show multiple times. They go by Fugitive Poems. I don't know if you're familiar with them. They're big on Twitter with what they share.
Yeah.
But they started. The story is we all worked together at one point. My friend Christian, who is the writer, said, "Hey, I got a story I want you to look at." I said, "This isn't for me. This isn't my style." I said, "Talk to James." Anyway, I eventually left the company that we worked at, and they got together. And they have been putting out work, I think, now since 2021. And they put out anthologies right now. Yeah. So if you look, guys, check out Fugitive Poems. I think like you and Hades would love these guys, and would love and vice versa with what you guys do. But yeah, and just so you guys know, I'm going to make the announcement. I was going to make it at the end. But I got tons of friends this weekend at Incredicon's my old show, at Terrificon. Terrificon happening at in Connecticut. You guys know where it is. Mohegan Sun, by the way. This casino over there. But yeah, I mean, friends of the show, Christian DiMatteo and James Lyons from Fugitive Poems, J.M. DeSantis, Emilio Velez Jr., Tim Jones. You got so many people. I know I'm missing a bunch, but those are right off the top of my head. If you're there, go check it out. And one of your co-workers with you there, George Medina, will be walking the show.
Yeah,
So
that doesn't surprise me.
Yeah,
Go George.
Yeah, no, I would walk it too if I didn't have a busy schedule this weekend. It is a nice show, I will say that. But anyway, let's get back to your story. I can talk about the stuff I want to promote at the end. Okay. So getting into comics, you've been a writer, you write prose. Comics are a completely different thing for you now. It's now, it's almost, for some, I don't know the format used, but it's almost like writing a movie script to some people. Was that a big change for you? Did you find it difficult to write a comic in the beginning?
Yes, for sure. I was like, so originally, like I had read a whole bunch of Hades's scripts, and so he was kind of like, yeah, just follow that format. So I tried for like I think 3 pages where I'm just like, okay, panel 1, panel 2, like this is like what it'll look like, and I was just like, it was just like blocking me, and I don't know how to do this. Like I got no flow. So eventually, what I kind of did was like almost an outline in a way, where I was kind of just like like rather than like set up the pages, I was just basically being like almost like just going panel, like it's almost like just panel. Like if it was just like a big scrolling thing, I was like, I'll sort out the format later. And so I'm just kind of like, okay, this, like I could kind of like see that way. So I had to start that way. And then like originally we'd written it as a graphic novel, or I'd written it as a graphic novel, but we'd planned to do it as a graphic novel. And then we decided to break it up into 4 issues instead. So I like the story, like even now the story is still way longer than it's supposed to be. So every issue I write, I have to like cut a whole bunch out, which is also hard because I'm just like, oh, well, this like really like this part, that thing that happens in issue 2 was like supposed to play into like this part in issue 4, which I'm probably gonna have to cut out because now there's not enough pages for that. So there's definitely like that challenge. And then just kind of the challenge of like, because I wrote it into panels, but like they're kind of like some could be combined, some could be small, like things could be kind of like switched around. So it's very much like taking something and like putting it, like I basically wrote a script and then I had to write a second script. It's kind of how I did, and then like plan all the pages out. So that was like the only way I could do it. And actually it's like we're turning Points of Villainy into some comics too, and it's also like adapting like prose into that. So that actually seems to be like the only way I've written comics so far is basically like have this like really kind of long, messy kind of way to do it, and then I have to like kind of transport it. And it's actually like fun for me. Like so that might actually just be how I do it going forward rather than like page. Like I've actually, okay, now that I say that, we have this like charity anthology we're doing where it's like all of us, which I don't know if people, I didn't get to watch all of them because this is like my kids' bedtime normally, but I don't know how far or much into that people have gotten into. But it's like there's 9 writers and we just like draw a name out of the hat and everyone's just like writing an ongoing story. So it's like a little bit like the telephone game, but we're given like a basic outline and characters and stuff. So it's kind of like don't go too crazy. Like we're trying to make a cohesive story here. But I know with that one, I actually like I'd by 10 pages. And that one, I think I did write it a little bit more like, here's this page and what it looks like. And so I don't know, I'm evolving, I guess. I mean, we'll see how things go.
I mean, listen, you've only been doing this for what now? About 3 years? Would you say?
Comics, like I guess I started like my first one actually has been like Sister Grimm came out almost a year ago on Saturday, but I was writing it for like probably a year kind of before that. So I guess like 2-ish years. So
yeah, no, I'm just good because it's a learning process.
Yeah,
you're very new to writing comics.
Yeah.
It's funny because all I can do is write comics and like scripts these days. I can't write prose. There's a book idea I have that I wrote as a comic, 100 and something pages. And after I wrote it, I'm like, I don't want to draw this now. So I'm like, I think I want to try my hand at writing it as prose. but I've forgotten how to do it because
Yeah.
I have been writing scripts that I've been publishing since '96, whether it's in animation or in comics. And I started learning even before that. So in my teens,
Yeah.
and I totally forgot how to write prose. It's driving me
Well,
insane.
yeah, like suddenly you're like, oh, I have to like describe like a scene
Yeah,
again.
I know.
Like I know, like I'm still writing like a bit of like I get like antsy sometimes because like I do a lot of editing and like admin and stuff as part of my job, and like so I get antsy to like write something, and like I can't pay all artists for everything, so I still have some like short stories and stuff I do, and like it's a weird mind switch going back to it and just being like, well, I don't normally like do this part. Someone just draws this. What do you mean I have to describe the scene?
Exactly. I hope to do it one day. It's nice.
Yeah.
But yeah, so you said that you weren't really and by the way, when I look down, don't worry, I'm not ignoring you. I have a monitor. Yeah, my Cintiq that I use as a monitor, and I'm just looking at notes and stuff.
Just falling asleep.
Yeah, it does look like I actually have incredibly heavy eyelids. Like if I take my glasses off, I'll show you this. I don't think I've ever done this on the air. This is actually funny. Okay, I'm zoomed in, right? I cannot look surprised. You see, my eyebrows go up, but my eyelids don't move. People think I look incredibly tired or high constantly. It's just my eyes. I think there's an actual condition, but I've just always said I have heavy eyelids. And that's
Yeah.
I can't look surprised. Yeah. So, but yeah. Anyway, but you said you weren't really but you grew up reading Archie, Calvin and Hobbes, Garfield, which all great stuff. I actually have the Calvin and Hobbes collection off to the side here, and a bunch of Garfield books, including The Art of Garfield, which is a great book if you ever get a chance to look at that. And I have a bunch of Archie stuff too. But but you were familiar with comics. I mean, it wasn't something that you were going to the shop every Wednesday when they come out and get new books. You were just like, if something's there, it's there, and I'll pick it up and I enjoy it, right? Kind of.
Yeah. Like I went to my first actual comic shop like maybe a year ago.
Really?
I just never even been in one. Yeah, it was just like not my world, and like. Yeah, like I just bought all that stuff off, like I guess we have Indigo here. I guess it's like the Barnes and Nobles everywhere else and stuff. And then like I think Archie's, we just bought them at like the grocery store.
Yeah.
And stuff like that. So yeah, like I hadn't been into a comic shop before. So it was like that was not my world.
No, those were the good old days where comics could be found anywhere. Now they're just in comic, which are great. I love going to my local comic shop. It's actually a nice ritual to do. You pick up some books, you get to know the owner, the salespeople, the whole team, and the regular fans that come in on the same days. Everybody comes friendly. It's a really nice like weekly ritual, But yeah, no, I mean, listen, it's when comics started disappearing from like newsstands and the grocery store and stuff like that, I had to start looking for comic shops. It took me a while. Like I didn't know how to find them. And I started collecting like comic books in 1989. I was 13 and I started collecting. And it took me a little bit. And the closest shop to me was 30 minutes away. So you got to go where they are and find them. But no, I think that's great because you had a familiarity. So there was an interest, is what I was trying to get at. You kind of were always interested.
Yeah. I think in the stories for sure, and like the format wasn't more foreign. Like it was definitely more like this. I think of it like the Saturday newspaper cartoon, like a lot of the 3-panel. Or the one panel kind of thing. Like Far Side, I was actually like a big fan of Far Side too.
I got the collection of Far Side here too.
I'm just gonna start naming things, and you tell me when you don't.
No. Well, the thing is, this is my quick background, like real intense, if you want to call it that. I love the newspaper strips, and here we got them on Sundays, the big colored strips. But like, and that was my big thing. I used to, when we visit my grandparents, I'd sit with my uncle and my dad's brother, and we would draw out of the comic. Like, I loved strips, and my goal was to grow up to be a strip artist. And then I'm like, no, I want to be an animator. And then I realized that animation took too long, and comics were easier to tell the story in. But by the time I hit like 13, 14 years old, I never left my love of comic strips, but I started getting into the idea of the books and, more superheroes and things like that. But yeah, I mean, for me, like, you look at my strip, you guys, the Wiz comic, where's it? Right there. Go to Wiz comic on Facebook or Instagram. And, it's a newspaper strip style. It's either 3 or 4 panels. By the way, it comes out every Wednesday, guys, by 9 a.m. Eastern. It's already up if you guys want to look at it after the show, please. But yeah, that's what it is. That's why I do the Wiz as a newspaper strip, like style strip, just because I love that format. I actually prefer it to reading comic books. It's a little more fun. For me, I like
you get like that like joke. Really quick, quick little joke, and that's why like I always like love Far Side, and the Bizarro I think was the other one that like kind of I'm like
that kind of took over like, once.
And it's just like in one, like a full joke and like one draw. Like I found it like very impressive.
I actually writing single panel gags are some of my favorite things to do. Even drawing them, it's just they're very hard to sell these days. In that spot.
Yeah, for sure, I get that.
Yeah, but all those single panel gags I wrote will be turning into animation. So all my fans out there just know, animations will be coming back soon. So anyway, moving on to this. So you put out your first comic with Hades. How did you move from writer to editor in chief?
So it was actually almost, so I was writing behind the scenes. So it was before the first comic came out. It's funny like we're not that old and it's already like, okay, what was the,
well, you
how did everything happen again? There's so much happened.
You guys grew very fast for an independent
so fast. Yeah. It's like hard to believe that like it's only been like almost 3 years, and at the same time it feels forever, and it also feels like no time at all. But so after our first year, it was about our second year, we launched the Anyone World, which is our creator-owned platform and imprint for other people's stories. And to launch that, we'd done a charity anthology to raise money for dyspraxia, which was a cause near and dear to Hades. And we had 16 writers who had submitted their stories. And I wasn't like doing the editing on it. We had we're working with Jess Monty, who's a great editor and still works with us. And so she was like editing this stuff, and then I was kind of like almost doing project management, I guess, and kind of like coordinating things and like contracts and all that stuff. And like I had done the proofread and the formatting, and we were working with the cover artist. And then I think basically it was about to, I think it was the month it was going to launch, and it was the starting month. And like again, Hades is just like, do you want an editor in chief job? And again, I was just like my imposter syndrome for that one was like crazy, because like I'm one of those people like I've like at the high level editor thing. Like I'm not always so good at like the little, like I'm good at developmental and I'm good at like the big picture stuff, but sometimes like the little detail things I'm like I don't know if there's a comma supposed to be here. Like I get editors have to look things up too, but like there's things where it just, my imposter syndrome really flares up there. So I'm just like, that's silly. Like, no, I don't want that. Plus it sounds like a lot of work. He's like, but you're already doing it. I'm like, fair. So again, I was like, this is me being impressionable. Where like I always say I'm like kicking and screaming, but really I'm like just playing hard to get. Right. So I accepted it, and that was it was that project that was kind of just like, yeah, he's like, you're already doing everything anyway. Like, just take the title, be official. I'm just like, fine, I'll be official in this company, I guess. So like, because before like I was a writer and like still doing as much as I could to support him, but like very much like full-time mom, which I still am. So, but like, I don't know, I just tacked on another job on top of it. So yeah, so that was it. then since then I'm just like still doing it. And it's just getting busier and we're trying to delegate things and bring on more people to help, because like we are kind of, in a way, we're kind of like still 2 people, but we like have a huge team now. So it's like we're 2 people, but we're also like not just 2 people anymore, which is wonderful. Like we have a great team of people and stuff that we can work with and rely on, and we don't have to be literally the jack of every single thing, every single trade there is,
No,
which is nice.
That is great. You know, I mean, listen, I know a couple of people that work with you. I've talked with you know, with Nem the other day. He was really a really good interview. You guys, you know, you guys seem it's, you know, and this is just the feeling I get from talking to you guys and seeing what you're doing. You guys, you know, it's sometimes it's hard to find someone you work very well with, where it's almost like this symbiotic relationship that, you know, you both do work to benefit each other or whatever. But you seem to have a team of that. You seem to have just a group of people that just clicked, you know?
Yeah.
And I think that's, you know, that number one, pretty amazing, but it's also rare. And I think that adds to the growth of your company and why you can grow as fast as you do. I know in my head when I work, I'm a bit of a control freak. It's nothing that I have a thing when I have my writers. I say, this is my idea. These are the characters. Here's a little background on them. Here are the plot points that need to be in here. But you're the writer. Write it however you feel it needs to be written. And then I will edit it and, you know, make changes or ask you to take another crack at it or something. And I always ask for a few pages before they write the whole script, before I say, hey, you know, I'll take, you know, this, so they don't have to change everything. But like, I let the people I work with, I try to let them shine where they shine, you know? But at the end of the day, I'm still that control freak that it has to be my way, you know?
Yeah.
So I have trouble actually working with people. It's, you know, I think there's some great writers out there, great artists, but when it comes down to art specifically, I don't usually hire artists because I want it to be my style, you know? So I have, you know, I have stuff that has to look a certain way. That's it. So I'm a bit of a control. I couldn't do what you guys do, and I think that's amazing. I'm always impressed by that, you know?
Well, it is one of those, it is very cool, because like Hades and I started off as friends first, and it was like, and in a way I think that's like why it works so well, but it's also like why we butt heads seriously. Like it's like, because in the end, like, people are like, oh, don't go to business with your best friend. Like him and I have like full on like heated discussions where, and we're both like very stubborn and very passionate, and like when we disagree, we're both very opinionated on why we disagree, and like the point where we're like, okay, we need some space, and then come back and we're like, okay, yeah, this and this makes sense. So like I always said, like if I don't care enough to say anything when I disagree, it's just like I've quit caring in general, and that's not a good sign. So like I'd rather like have the odd debate and then carry forward and like learn some things and move on, and then like just quit caring, right? Like, but it is like at the end of the day, I get to come to work with my best friend and get to work with like my other friends and stuff, and like, so it's tons of fun. Like it's a lot of work, but it's like even the work is fun. Like even I find like the admin, there's a few admin things where I'm like, oh, they bog me down, but like they're still like very satisfying, and like sending out contracts and emails and contact. Like I'm not super good at, like Hades' forte is very much the marketing, and like he can really lure people in. He's a hard guy to say no to, and so that's like his specialty. But yeah, we're as we get bigger, we're able to kind of fall into our strengths a bit more, and then kind of, again, just because we work with a good group of people, we can really rely on the different people's strengths, and if there's like little kind of holes where like, oh, this is not really anyone's strength, like there's always learning curves. And there's times where like in hindsight we're like, maybe not the best thing we could do, but we always learn from it and we always get better, and that's part of being indie and new and all that stuff. Like it does just feel like we're getting better and we're learning, and none of our mistakes have been fatal, thankfully. So we're still going strong, it feels like.
Now let me ask you a question. I know Hades never sleeps, it seems. Are you the same way, or do you actually break?
It's tricky. I have 2 small children, and if I don't sleep, I am miserable to be around, and I feel like I'm a miserable mom and stuff if I don't get at least some. But I do kind of joke where it's just I basically from when I first wake up, I'm texting Hades to when I go to sleep, because lots of times I go to sleep before him. But I feel like he's getting a little better. But I'm definitely a night owl. There's sometimes where I turn on my computer at midnight, essentially. I'm time to work.
Wow.
So it's not always because I want to be a night owl. It's just because life.
It's the way you're wired. Yeah,
it's a lot of stuff.
Wired.
Yeah.
I used to be a very big morning person, and then I switched jobs, and my job is on Pacific time, and I'm on Eastern time. So I'm living on 2 time zones. I don't fall asleep till 1, 2 o'clock in the morning, but I try to stop my work by 10 or 11, so I'm not focused on it, because then I'll stay up all night if I just work. I try to.
Yeah, you can definitely get sucked in.
I love this stuff. I can sit in front of this and draw for hours, and I've done that, and I have literally done 15, 16 hours in my studio, and then I come out and I'm exhausted, and the first thing I do is I pick up a drawing pad and I go sit on the couch. It's I can never stop. But yeah, it's you have to, I was asking, because you have to, there's a big thing right now with everywhere you go about self-care. And I know comics can be such a stressful gig, like a life, and knowing that Hades doesn't sleep, I'm just curious about the rest of his team,
Yeah. You know what? For me, in a weird way, doing this almost is my break. Because I spend so much time around little people who one of them doesn't speak and stuff like that, and they're just it's a different level of focus and capacity and stuff. And then when I get time to myself, I want to write and I want to edit and I want to work on the business. So it's in a weird way, it's almost like my vacation. Yes, I still like time where I can just watch TV and completely just have some tea or just completely shut off. But this is it fills that creative bucket, and I need that. So
that's great. This is what this show does for me, kind of the same thing. It gives me a break from my day job, my art, but I still get to be involved in the stuff I love, which is art, which is comics, which is animation, which is talking to people who make them. Oops, what did I hit there? I'm sorry. So you guys, everybody, I've already posted in the comments. So whoever's watching on Facebook, Twitch, or YouTube, this is Laurie's link tree, and you can see everything. And I've opened things up. It's not exactly in the order I wanted to talk about. Hold on. I wanted to talk about Sister Grimm first.
Sure.
If you could, because this is your current story, and this is the one that you said will be is the one that's the year old, right? That you've been doing for a year now. Which I saw, by the way, on what was it, Instagram. You have a little contest going, right? For
sure.
I'm
doing the celebration. So I have a giveaway. So I posted it on Twitter, Instagram, and Threads, because who knows where Threads will go. But it's basically just you could just retweet it, if they're still called retweets, and or share them, and then just share an emoji. And it's for a signed giveaway, because when I go to conventions and stuff, I always offer to sign things and stuff. But I know I have a lot of people online who obviously can't come to conventions where I am, so I wanted to give people a chance to get some physical signed copies. And I live in Canada, so it's expensive regardless of where I send it. It's actually cheaper for me to send it to the States than to the other side of my city. So it's an open internationally. So whoever wants in, it doesn't matter. Canada does not have the cheapest postal service there is.
So you guys, is your Instagram account or Twitter or all that on your link tree?
I actually don't think it is. I think I kind of kept my link tree a little minimalist. And of course, they're not the same handles on everyone because they're like, I say I like to play hard to get there too, but it's Laurie Cun on Twitter and then like La Cu Insta on Instagram. And then I guess it's the same on Threads. So, but yeah, I don't make it easy to find me. I guess I could put my social media Linktree, make myself a little bit more findable, but pursue me.
So let me ask you about Sister Grimm. I read the little tagline you have here. Once she worked to save lives. Now, thanks to the event, Lily Connors can only take them. First of all, you've hooked me. I'm just going to let you know, which means I may have to enter the contest.
You should. Sign copies.
But so tell us a bit about, without really giving away the story.
Yeah.
Tell us what Sister Grimm's about and how it came to be.
So in the anthology, in Sweet Dreams and Angel of Death, so you kind of meet Lily and her family and her daughter Hannah and her husband Noah, and they're basically fleeing the city. And the first story is from Hannah's perspective. And then you flip the book over, and it is a literal flip book. And you get Angel of Death, and Lily is a doctor, and she's going back to London. She's like, maybe I can help. She wants to help people. So she leaves her family behind. And then through there, she's basically like, the event is everyone being like, going through these horrible, horrific, terrifying experiences. And a lot of the experiences are really customized to the people for reasons. And so Lily is basically being haunted by like a physical form of death, like the Grim Reaper. And so she has like a encounter with him. I guess he's a he. And basically that's kind of where the story ends. And then this picks up 3 months later. She wakes up in a morgue. She has no memories of the last 3 months other than like flashbacks. And she's just doesn't know if her family's alive. And she's basically trying to get back home and try and figure out what's going on. But she also has these new abilities, which are causing her problems based on the fact that she used to be a doctor and she can no longer be around death because it causes some reactions in her. But like I say, like, I don't want to give like spoilers, but like it's called Sister Grimm. And we got trading cards, and like the cat's out of the bag is that she's half Grim Reaper. So it's like that's kind of the whole thing there. So yeah, it's basically kind of her coming to terms with who she was versus who she is now. It's like it's very much the story of someone who's like lost and trying to figure out who they are.
I really like that. Now let me ask you, because last week when I interviewed Nem, he brought up an interesting point. He's in the USA. I know he's traveled kind of the world, being ex-military now. But you're in Canada, but the events take place in London. How do you find writing in an area that you're unfamiliar with?
It's definitely tricky. I know, like we write in London, but we also write in an alternate London. Like I know, like Nem has in one of his stories, he's made up a town. So like there's definitely some things that are like similar. Like in the first issue, she goes to can't remember the name. I think it's called Fulham Wharf, which is a real place. And in order to kind of like familiarize myself, I took the little Google Maps yellow man and like dropped him in the map and was like walking around. And like there's a few things where I'm like where she lives and stuff, like the hospital where she is. Like I'm Googling stuff constantly. And I actually got this tip from Hades' artist who like they're both in the UK, but neither of them lived in, like his artist for Messiah, but neither of them lived in London. So apparently the artist was doing that. And I'm like, oh, that's like a really good idea. And it's actually like interesting. Like you can't get like a full immersive experience, but at the same time, we also have people who live in England at least and who have been to London, so they can give you like a few little details there. And but we do have a little bit of leeway in that it's an alternate London, so we can change a few things here and there. So there is that kind of little bit of grace where if anyone ever tries to call us out on something, we're like, alternate London. So yeah.
Now, I want to move. I got to go back to your link tree because I did not open one of the pages, and you have a book that has the coolest name. It is called Babies with Rabies. It is a book, correct?
Yeah.
Can you please tell me about Babies with Rabies? Because this, I looked at the art and it's kind of just right below Garbage Pail Kids, kind of like that ugliness. But I'm like, it is so great looking at this. I need to know more.
So it's basically so I have a few things I do, which are basically jokes that have gone too far. Okay. And whereas lots of people would just leave it there, I turn them into books. Okay. And this is one of those examples where my daughter is about 6 months old, and I was living at my parents because we were doing some renos, and basically I don't exactly remember the conversation, but this came out of it. We were joking about like rabid babies, and my mom's one of those people who's always like, she'll always say like, "Oh, that's a fun book idea. You should you should turn that into a book." And sometimes she's right, and sometimes she's definitely not right, or maybe she's right, but it's just not something that interests me. Someone else could do it, or can do it in the future. And this is just one of those things where I think that like maybe seed got planted a little, and like because we started like I think I started like joking and coming up with like because I assume R was the first one with Rabies, and then it's an ABC book, so like every letter. It's like each one's rhyming. So yeah, so it's like an ABC survival book where it's basically baby zombies versus like parents, but it's about teething. So that's kind of like the whole kind of idea. Like I tell people, it's like Shaun of the Dead meets Mad Max, but with babies.
Wow, that is awesome. You know, years ago, and by the way, if you guys read the Wiz strip today, you'll see I added an old character of mine. His name is Plunger Pup. It's about a dog that fought crime with a magic plunger. He was my 97 to about 2005 publishing. And everybody told me, but I never had kids, but everybody told me I should do a book on him about potty training because it's, plunger and stuff. I never got around to it, and I wouldn't even know where to begin. I think I'd have to do a lot of research. Because even though I have 5 nephews, I have never changed a diaper in my life. I know nothing. I would always tell them, you chose to have the kids, I chose to have a cat. You don't come over my house and clean the litter box, so I don't change diapers. That's kind of how it is. And wow, I don't know. I mean, I just think that I'm thinking about this, and I'm just looking at it.
Yeah, because this isn't like practical advice. Like there is one, I think.
If I click on read more, can I get a little, or is that to just?
So if you click read more, so that the digital version is actually pay what you want, and if you wanted, you like I probably don't do it on your screen because I assume you'd have to do it, but you can pay $0 and get it completely for free. I could also just send you the link if you want to, but like there's like that's you got J right there. Like I try and tease people a little. Like I told my artist, I don't know, like you probably know him. It's weird when I found my artist, I found him on like a children's book group in Facebook. And I kind of, because I'm like, well, it's kind of a children's book, although like it's not really for kids.
I love
like it's not like overly inappropriate. Like it's not full of, it's not like go the F to sleep or anything like that, right? Like it's not full of swears. But yeah, I've like found him, and I actually found like I'd gone through like so many posts, so many people replied, and like he actually on like just like your art is really beautiful. If I ever do an actual children's book that's like sweet and beautiful, I'd love to use you. And he's like, well, what style are you looking for? So I kind of mentioned Baby Herman from Roger Rabbit, and then Scotty Young is the comic book artist. I'm like kind of like a mix of that, like kind of like not cute babies, but not cute, but like a little gritty, and that's kind of probably how you end up with the garbage. Like a bit of a garbage pail vibe, I guess. But
I could totally see when you say those artists, My God.
Yeah.
And this
yeah,
just really cracks me
Jay
up.
for sure is like a little baby Herman, like with like the little bow and the diaper and stuff. And that was like the first letter we did. So yeah, and he changed it, and then we kind of talked about kind of the vibe, and like there's a lot of like, if you saw my script, it's like full of 80s movies references. Like it was like M is for montage, and I was telling him, I'm like, you know when like Rocky's like fighting the meat and like running up like the hill and all that stuff, like I want like that vibe. And like originally I'm kind of like, I'm trying to think of what some of the other like 80s references, like I actually had a letter that was originally like, so Q is for quiet. And I was originally like, I described to him, I'm like, you know, in Jurassic Park, when they're like hiding behind like the Jeep, and he originally sent me a sketch of this, and I'm like, okay, this is really cool, but there was like a giant baby, and everything was like very zombie-esque and like dystopian so far, and then all of a sudden you have like this kind of dinosaur baby. I'm like, maybe I went a little too far on this one, but like, I know K is for Kevlar, and it's a full like commando, like, you know, when he's like doing all the face paint and like strapping himself in, like that's like kind of the vibe I was going with there. So yeah, it was just like fun. And it's silly.
It sounds fantastic.
But yeah, but it's essentially for free. Like people can pay money if they want to, but like I just the idea of it was that's like a gift book, and I because originally I wasn't even going to do a digital version because I'm like, why would anyone read this digitally? But now I just put it out there. It's also on YouTube. I like partnered with this other this like channel, and they like narrated it for me. They like read all these like kind of silly
that is
for
amazing.
kids that aren't. So if anyone like they're called I Tomfoolery, and they're read it in like British. They got like the music, and they're British, and they like read it, and it's great.
That's amazing.
Excuse me. And then I also have I also did the survival kit. So it comes with teething rings, and then I got some like custom designed foam ninja stars for the bath, and then there's like stickers and bookmarks, of course. So that's like, that one right there. So it's got like the whole shebang in there.
That is fantastic. That's awesome. I like that a lot. Okay, let's move on to Points of Villainy. Talk about Points of Villainy, because this was, I haven't had a chance with my schedule to really look into a lot. All I've read are the little blurbs you got at the top here, and it sounds, it sounds very interesting to me. So, explain the Points of Villainy to my audience.
So this was the part, the like white and blue or gray and blue covers there. That's like the original book, and that's like it here. And it's like actually just one book, even though it's like it's the best way we can show it there. So it's 16 short stories, and it's prose. And the first half is kind of like sadder endings, I suppose. And then the second one is kind of like more hopeful endings.
Okay.
And so, but we decided that because we're doing comics and stuff, like let's turn it into comics. So we've taken, of the 16 stories, we're taking 12. And we're putting them into comics. So each issue, so like you have Points of Villainy 1 and Points of Villainy 2, they all have two of the short stories in them. And basically go ahead.
No, I was going to ask, are they flip books, like, the two different stories? Are they,
the comics won't be, but when we're going to combine them all, because we're working on the Points of Virtue ones right now, and the plan is to make it exactly like the anthology, so it'll be a flip graphic novel, essentially.
Okay.
So like basically in like the Points of Villainy, it kind of is a countdown to the event, and then it like the event happens in the middle of the book, and then you flip it over, and then all those stories are kind of like during the event, and then just kind of like scattered. Like it's a little like less chronological, but it's like a little more post-event.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, listen.
Yeah, they're just like horror stories. They're just horror stories, and so there's a big mix. So like I could tell you what each one's about if you really want, but
I mean, listen, here's the thing. I've always said on my show, I'm sure you've heard me, I'm not a horror fan, but I don't mind reading it. I don't like I don't mind reading it in a comic form. I don't like to watch it because
me neither.
When it's real, I don't like watching it.
I hate jump scares. I hate them. Yeah. Like I hate when they're cheap. And like I don't want to scream because a broom fell. And I don't trust directors to not do that to me anymore. So like I have to really want to be intrigued by a storyline or a concept in order to watch a horror movie. Although like
You know-
zombies in space are kind of my exception for some reason. Like they're still scary, but
I
my brain doesn't
I
think they're horror.
I can't do anything that takes place in reality, specifically current reality. You know, the current era. But like, I even have issues because my imagination is so vivid, and I have issues sleeping myself. That I don't need extra stuff floating around my head. And oh, there's the shadow of the car that just passed on the that passes in the window or whatever, and I don't need any of those little things screwing up my head. But when they're in comic form, I don't mind reading them. The other thing, I don't like reading them like if it was like, say, a Stephen King novel. I can't do that because all that's now in my head. It's all my imagination what I'm reading. So that's going to make it worse than it is. So if I see it in comic form, I will have no problem. It might gross me out or something depending on the art or whatever, but I could sit and read horror in comic form. I can't do it any other way.
Yeah, I think so you might not like the actual prose anthology. But the comic ones they're mostly more psychological. Like there is like kind of monsters and stuff as well, but like a lot of it is very much like when we started doing this, we're kind of just like, what are people's biggest fears? And we kind of like wrote stories around them. Like one that we're actually like not turning into a comic is I remember I saw this post a long time ago, and it was basically like what are your biggest fears? And it was so many of them were parents being like, losing my kid, not being able to reach my kid, having to choose between two kids. And so there's a whole story we put in there that's basically this mom is trapped in a time loop and she can't save her kid every time. And it's like traumatizing to read, but like there's like claustrophobia ones, and there's like fear of failure. Like we put it all in there just to mess with people. So it's fun.
Wow. That does sound like it will mess with you.
But yeah, if you're fine with like the comic versions of them, like, because again, like you said, it's a little, because they're drawings, it's like out of reality a little bit, so you can still kind of get that little like mess with your head, but
and
it doesn't look as real.
Is this the same artist on every book? Because I'm really digging the style.
No, so every book has two artists on it. So because like we have like the two authors, so we figured we'd do two artists. So each artist gets the own story, and then like the V in the middle, the top person will be one artist on one story in the bottom. So each cover is split between the two artists as well.
Yeah.
And then obviously like you can see the pre-order at the bottom there is like the V switches to a mountain, I guess. Yeah. And same thing. So you got two artists on that. And everyone's different. Like we're having, like now that we're in the Points of Virtue, some of the artists are repeat, but we definitely try to like, we're going into our whole team as much as possible so everyone can be a part of this. Because this was like our original kind of like flagship. The event is like a very important thing in our world. So we kind of wanted to bring everyone into it as much as possible.
This stuff, like this is why I'm very fascinated by your company. You guys put out so much, and like I said, it's been 3 years, because this really started during the pandemic.
Yes, it's 3 years like next month.
And it's like, I mean, to have 3 copies or 3, well, technically 4, right? Because this is Points of Virtue is what you got. Part 1 right there.
And that one should be maybe before the third birthday. We're close.
but like I'm saying is, I mean, you have all this, and then we move over here to ASAP, and then here's everything that you do. Things you can pre-order. We can go to the shop, and I've shown this on the website before. So, but I mean, you can see all these different titles, and there's 8 pages of things. One of them I know is a hat, because your picture has you in the hat in it, which I couldn't scale down enough to get the hat in there. But,
fair enough, no worries.
Where is it here? And then, I'm sorry, I don't want to hit that. I wanted to come here, and then you guys branch out, and you do creator-owned stuff. And here, our good friend George Medina's stuff. Who this is now available for digital downloads.
Yeah. And issue 2 just came out today.
Yes. Yes. Issue 2, right? You said?
Yeah.
Yeah. Issue 2. Yeah, no, that's fantastic. And I mean, just look at this stuff here. J.M. DeSantis, another friend here, his Gentleman Cthulhu and his Chadiana, which took me years to learn how to say properly. I always felt so bad. We would go to shows, we would hang out or whatever, and we'd talk about this stuff, and I'd be like, how do you say it again? How do you say it? And I'm like, I'm sorry.
How did you say it? Because I just say it how like spelled. I haven't heard anyone say it.
I don't know. It's pronounced Chadiana.
Okay, fair.
But
I feel like I was close.
I was terrible. I don't even know how I was saying it, but I was like, okay, you gotta. Yeah, he'd be on the show here, and I'd be like, okay, I apologize. Say it again. You know. So
that happens.
Yeah. So yeah. Oh, a lot of JM stuff. That's great. And Wonder Duck. I gotta say, I actually read the first part of Wonder Duck, I guess part 1 right here, and my God, great story. Art is beautiful. This is one of the things I love about George's work. And this is something we talked about on the show. I don't know if you had it in Canada growing up, but when we were kids, we had the Disney afternoon, and we were such big fans that when he writes something like Wonder Duck, I feel like I'm looking at an old Disney cartoon, you know, from the 80s and stuff. And that's what I love about it so much. And that's one of the things we both share a love of. That's what Plunger Pup was influenced by, and I still kind of look to that as like the way I like to tell stories. I actually want George to write a story for me.
You've obviously read his. I was gonna say you've obviously read his stuff, and you know that we lured him over as well. So now he's writing in our world. So he took over the Dead of Night title. So
that's cool.
So we got him as well. Like obviously big fans of him. Yeah, he was an obvious choice when we were looking for someone.
No, yeah, he's fantastic. But yeah, I have this idea I've been wanting to do, and it's totally in the world of like that Disney afternoon stuff. I'm like, oh, he's perfect. Now, one thing I didn't open up, and that I mean we could talk about and you're part of, is GIG. You're one of the founders of GIG, along with Hades and George, kind of, right? Like you guys were the 3 that went around it. I don't know how old this is, but I actually have an old GIG video on here. I have the first one that was a minute long, and the other one that says final gag. I don't know. We can watch it if you want.
They're both relevant. Yeah, like
all right. Let's take a look at the first one here. This is the original ad for GIG.
Yeah, go for it.
That was still good. I like that.
I love it gives me chills.
It's a nice concept. I mean, we've already heard on here how GIG came about. But what specifically is your involvement with GIG? Are you like the editor-in-chief of that as well, or?
Yeah, I'm kind of like, we're not that, I don't know if editor-in-chief is the right word for that one. It's kind of more just like a behind-the-scenes, like, I think we just call ourselves GIG staff, to be fair. Like, Hades is running a lot of it, and he was the one with like the idea, and he kind of set up the vision, and then we're kind of just like of helping him like go through profiles, because when it first set up, it was like a big job. And it was the classic thing where like he'd been thinking about it for a while, but in between being like, let's go for it, and like the launch of it, like we do things fast. Like I think he like mentioned it in February. Then we did like an intensive month, and I think we released it by the end of February. Like it was like we got everything set up, and it was like it was the top priority, and then we were working on it a crazy amount. And like yeah, so I've just been mostly I'm just like helping him like kind of go through profiles and make everything work. Like I am a little bit of an editor, I guess, on that. Like he's doing a lot of the behind the scenes work and stuff, and making the contacts and making sure everyone's set up. But yeah, and then it's kind of just like we're also kind of, I guess, can't think of what the like ambassadors, I guess, is almost a word. Like especially George, like obviously Hades we'll talk about too, but I feel like George and I were very much like we need more people to talk about this. So whenever we get a chance, like at cons and podcasts and everything, we're just like, because we do like it's an amazing idea, and I love the idea of it, and I think it has like potential to like really gain traction and get out there and kind of change the whole indie world, because like it's really messy looking for resources right now. Like that's all over the place, and even like Twitter used to be like the main place I like did things, and now it feels like it's all scattered and everything's going everywhere now, and everything's bots. And stuff
Twitter is definitely going through some changes.
Yeah.
when I was telling you about my friends, the Fugitive Poems guys, they have a good what's the word I'm looking for? They just have a good Twitter presence, you know?
Yeah.
And they've connected with other indie people who have the same thoughts, and people who have been in their anthologies. And you know, there's a comics an indie comics jam that happens, I believe, weekly, that they're part of. So they've connected with people throughout the world, and they, you know, their stuff is going to become something. I think they're going to be really good in the indie comic world, in the sense of getting big, and you know, probably, you know, stores very soon, type like multiple stores and locations and stuff. But yeah, no, they're doing stuff, and their Twitter presence is what really, I think, helped them out and network and get to where they got.
Yeah, for sure.
They kept telling me, get on Twitter, and I've been on Twitter since like 2012, but I never use it because as an artist, I find Instagram better for me. You know, they need the visuals, but sometimes I go on Twitter, but it's not the same for me.
Yeah, it's like different things work for different people, right? Like I Instagram, I'm like I'm a reluctant user. I like, now that I'm in comics, I think I have more visuals to share, and like I do a little bit of art, and I kind of have like a separate art Instagram where I kind of post some stuff.
I'll have to check that out.
Well, yeah, feel free. Like I'm trying to, like, I'm very much a writer and an editor. I feel like writer first, editor second, but I like want to be an artist. When I was little, like I wanted to be a cartoonist. And then I kind of got like shifted towards, maybe pointed towards academics. I ended up like, actually like went to be a pilot for a while, and then it was stressing me out, and so I like ended up being in business and accounting and stuff, and then took me a long time to get back. So it was one of those things where I'm like, I really wished I still draw, because I basically gave it up completely, and now I'm like really trying to bring it back in to my life.
It's funny, and I think I brought this up a week or two ago on the show, because I've gone out and I've lectured. Sometimes I've done panels, I've done a ton of stuff, but one of the things that I would talk to adults about specifically when they're around kids is about how, and you kind of brought it up, how you were kind of pushed in a way out of drawing. That happens, and it's not done to say drawing is bad or whatever, but most people don't realize or understand that that you can make a living being a creative person, illustrating or animating or designing clothes or whatever it is. And at some point, and again, it's never done to say art is bad. It's people have been conditioned that you got to do this, go to college, you got to get these type of grades, got to get into college, you got to get into a job. That's how it is. So at some point, whether it's a friend, a parent, a teacher, a relative of some sort, they don't, again, do it on purpose, but they think they're doing good and pushing them. And that happens. And I've seen it happen to adults who have told me, oh, I've always wanted to do comics or something, and they gave it up because they had to focus on something else, for their education, or to be a more, I guess, well-rounded adult or whatever, or live in society. I don't know, whatever you want to call it. But it happens. And I'm lucky that I never had parents who did that to me. They always told me, you want to explore, be a cartoonist, that's great, but make sure you know other art fields that you can get a job while you're working on comics.
Yeah, and like my parents were like, they were the ones buying me cartoon books and stuff, but it's just like I don't exactly know how little things push you, right? Like one little thing happens and suddenly you're like not quite on the path you wanted to be on, and then you're like significantly far off the path you wanted to be on. It takes a while to get back. Like I don't regret going the route I went because it led me to where I am now. But there's definitely like, I do wish I kept up drawing. Like I feel like I would be in a better, like maybe I could be drawing my own comics and stuff right now, but like there's like two kind of like mottos when I'm like doing art, because sometimes I look at art and it's like discouraging for me because I have so much to learn. But I just like there's like this like old saying where it's like the best time to plant a tree was 10 years ago, but the next best time is now. So that's kind of like that one I can think of. And then we went and watched Steve Martin one time, and he, like, obviously he's comedy, but he tours around doing the banjo. And he told this story about basically how he was just like, I decided I wanted to play the banjo as an adult. And he's just like, I don't know. It's like, it's kind of same thing. I have so much to learn. He's just like, you know what? He's like, if I picked up the banjo, he's just like, and played this like for 10 years. He's like, I bet someone who played the banjo for 10 years is probably pretty good. And so he's just like, and and eventually like you do a little bit every day, and 10 years later, you're like, pretty good.
Definitely.
And it's like, like I'm in no hurry, but like, and I my life is very busy, and I got other things that are a higher priority than art, but like I want to make sure I don't lose it. Maybe eventually it'll be a bigger priority.
Oh, I hope so. I think to me it's the greatest thing ever, but I'm an artist. It's like I said, I could spend 16 hours in here and then go out and grab a drawing pad, and it's just I can never stop. It really is. Like I will tell you right now, after the show, I will probably go to bed, or at least get into bed. And if I'm not going to read a comic, I'm probably going to throw my iPad on and watch some kind of show with my drawing pad on my lap, and I will sketch while I'm watching. It's just what I do. And honestly, there are times where during the show, I wish I was just sitting here drawing, because the person I'm talking with is really like getting me excited. And when I look like I'm looking at your baby, right? the babies with rabies. I looked at that, and all of a sudden it's just like, I want to be sitting here sketching right now. I want to draw. I want to, like this is what's really cool to me, But we got a couple of more things. So do you have the time, or are you okay?
Yeah, sure. Okay. as long as you want me for.
All right.
I've set aside some time.
I got your website up, which by the way, you guys, again, the link to Laurie's link tree is in the comments, and I haven't been in the comments lately. Let's see, anything? Okay, so I mean, you can look around the website. I'm not going to go super exploring, but it gives you a good idea of all the stuff that you've worked on here. And your social media is somewhere. You can follow her on Twitter here, guys.
Yeah. I always feel like, on my webpage, there's a contact information, and it does still have my Twitter. So like, if you can find me one place, like I try to be as approachable as possible. Like I know like reaching out to people you don't know very well can be intimidating, but like just message me, just send me an email. I'll respond. Like just a normal person.
Yeah.
And like I want to meet people and creative people. It's fun talking about all this stuff.
Yeah, no, this is that's why I have the show. But you have your own show as well.
I do.
Which we are not gonna go watch right now. But you have one of my favorite things in the world here. You host a drink and draw. Please tell me about the drink and draw.
So this was, so I used to have my own, a different channel, and it was kind of also to encourage myself to draw more, but it also kind of turned into like just talking about being new to comics kind of late in life. So like I wanted to like, I just want everything to like feel more accessible. So if, like I ran into a whole bunch of people who are like, I'd love to make a comic, but it's too expensive, or I don't know how to draw or everything. So like, I think a lot of my goals of this stuff is just to make it seem more accessible, because I came into this all so late. Like I wasn't one of those people who from like the age of 5 wanted to be a writer. And obviously like after this, people know that I didn't want to be a comic book writer or a comic book artist from like the age of 5. So like it's all coming late in life, and I'm just trying to make things accessible. So this was something that it was a little bit for me, because I'm just like, once, regardless of everything else, once a week I'm going to sit down and draw something. And I like wanted it to be like casual, and just if people want to come draw something. So I put up a prompt every week, and people can draw it or not. And like if they do the prompt, I kind of have this like thing where like if they submit it to me and let me share it, I'll promote something for them with it as well. So it's kind of like that little extra incentive if people need it. But people can also just share whatever they want. And then I've had guests on. We've had like not a ton. Like it's fairly new. Like I've only been going 3 months, but we missed one. Yeah, like we missed 1 week because I was at a con, and I was like, I can't come home and do a drink and draw on top of that. That's stressful. But yeah, so it's very like casual, and I've invited artists, not a ton of takers yet, but we've had a couple, and it's fun. It's just the chat's lively, and I Nem runs like all the tech stuff aside and keeps an eye on the chat. So like I just draw, and then he like people just make puns in the comments, and it's literally like we talk about food, we talk about comics and movies. Like it's very like exactly what I want it to be. And when people come on, we do talk about their stuff and like who they are, but it shifts just into like a regular just hangout.
Yeah,
like it just feels like you're hanging out with friends, and that's like you talk about like it's a highlight of my week. Like it's one of my like typically like a few hours before, like it's the end of the week, it's Thursday. Like I feel like I'm starting to feel burnt out, and I'm like, oh god, I have to do drink and draw tonight. And I'm just constantly sick with my little kids and their germs. So it's just like it's always like that extra, like I feel pre-exhausted, but like during this it's like everything just goes away. It's like relaxing, it's invigorating, it's inspiring. Like people send me their art, which is awesome, and like it's all skill levels, and it's just fun.
You know, that's funny that you say, because that's what this show is for me. Like, I'll always tell my wife right before I come on, like, oh man, I really don't want to do this tonight. And the second I pop on, it's all everything's disappeared. I'm just sitting there, I'm having the conversation about topics I enjoy, you know, and I feel great, you know. Another reason why it's going to take me a while to fall asleep, I usually fall asleep between 1 and 2, is because I'm on a high usually after this.
Yeah, for sure. After drink and draw, I'm like wired. I do it pretty late because like I get the time zone doesn't work for people, but like I went to the horror con, and I met the artist who like runs a local one where they go to a pub, and it's actually really close by. But I'm like 7 o'clock on Tuesday, I'm like, it's when I put my kids to bed. I'm like, it doesn't work. So like I do an online one because I'm like, well, I don't know a lot of people who want to start drawing at 9. I just don't know a lot of artists like in general. Like I started doing this all in the pandemic, so I have like slowly starting to build like a local community, I guess. But a lot of my community's been online, so this was just a place where I'm like, let's hang out with my international friends, and it's a lot of people from the West Coast, which is fine. You get a few night owls, or a few insomniacs across the pond sometimes. But it's fun, and it's just it's just another thing where it's casual and accessible, and just a hangout. Like it's not. I never want it to be like a formal interview, but I will like want people to learn stuff and all that stuff.
No, that's cool. I'm looking forward to watching it, but this is 9 p.m. Mountain Time, so I'm in Eastern. That's 2 hours behind, so it'd be 11 p.m. my time.
Yeah, see, it's for the Eastern night owls. Like 11 o'clock might be start a little late for some people. Like I know some people are like, I'd love to come, but I'm in bed. I'm like, you go to bed at 11? It's like weird.
Well, it's funny. I was actually having a conversation with someone today, and as I mentioned, and I've told people, my current job is I work on Pacific time, so I live on 2 time zones, and I go to sleep between 1 and 2 a.m. every day. And I started thinking about it. That's me going to bed on Pacific time at if it was Easter, if it was actually Easter,
like a very reasonable time.
I'd be going to bed at 11 p.m. You know, and like I used to wake up at 5 a.m. every day and be wired. Now I wake up at 8 a.m., which is 5 a.m. Pacific. So I just shifted my body to Pacific time.
Perfect.
But I just find it interesting. I'm still going to bed, but 11.
Well, it sounds like you should come on the show.
I think I might have
draw because there are a lot of Pacificers. Like Nem's he's in the Pacific time zone and stuff. So.
I mean, listen, I wasn't trying to get on the show. I was just trying to say how interesting it is.
I'm like in a point where I'm like anyone who's like art even shows the tiniest interest, and I as an artist, I know I'm like, do you want to come on the show? Because it's fun. It is like. It's just it's a different dynamic, and it just like because like Nem and I just talk and stuff, and the people in the chat. But it is fun when other people come on and shoot the shit, right? So it's great.
You know what? You let me know when, and I'll make sure I'm able to come on.
All right, sounds good. We will coordinate something.
Yeah, totally. All right, I think that's it technically from your drink and draw. Oh, we didn't talk about This Is Not a Poem. This is definitely not a poem. This is definitely not a poem. It's a short book about This Is Not a Poem. Okay. Tell us a little bit about.
So this is a story. So this goes with a joke that went too far. I saw a poem somewhere, and it was just like someone had taken a sentence and just broken it up, and people were sharing screenshots of it and like, that's so beautiful. I'm like, this is like just a sentence. And I was like, and I made a joke about it. I like made a post where I'm just like, basically I took like a poem is not, I forget what the original thing is now. It was basically like a poem isn't just a sentence broken up into multiple lines. And that's literally what the post was. And someone joked, they're like, you should turn this into a book. So I did. And it was literally just a book about, and that was the only thing in it. It had like a title page and a dedication and then the poem, and that was it. And I like made a cover and everything and put it on Amazon, and people loved it. Like people who were in on the joke, it got something like people were buying it. It got like a whole bunch of reviews, and then someone was like, you should like, this would be a hilarious audiobook. And a narrator saw that post.
So there you go. It's a 42-second audiobook. How awesome.
So, but there's more to this. So the narrator saw this and like a legit, and we like did it through Audible and did it all legit. And then it got stuck and it got like declined. And I'm just like, well, what's going on? And they're like, oh, this isn't like good for an audiobook. I'm like, well, it's a book on there. And then they saw what the book was on Amazon, and then they blocked it and canceled it. I'm just like, what? And I appealed it, and like it got taken down. So so basically I wrote a second book, and the whole purpose of the second book was to hide the first book in it. But it tells the story of why I'm hiding the book in it. So there's like a title page, and then there's like a new dedication, and then there's the story of like everything, and then there's the book that they took down. So it's 18 pages instead of 3. Yeah. And still people just thought it was funny. And then like meanwhile, we still had this audiobook going where I'm like, okay, well maybe we can't through Audible, but like this narrator had actually like he'd like sent me samples. We had the whole thing. We were like, well, let's do something with this. So we like put it on my website. But in the meantime, we're like, well, let's try. There's this other platform. I forget who it's. I think it's Draft to Digital, because I'm like, well, let's try and see if they'll like anyone will publish like the original book somewhere. And everyone was like, no. Like our vendors have standards. They don't want a 3-page book, and they didn't want the 18-page book either. But somehow the audiobook was okay. So it's a 42-second audiobook. So it's available on Spotify and Barnes and Noble and Walmart and like everywhere. And then it's also available on the website. So both like the original book is on my website.
Mm-hmm.
The like new book with the hidden book is like on Amazon still. And then the audiobook is like everywhere, but also on my website. So that's what it is. Again, it's like, I don't know who the audience is for other than like the people who were in on the original joke, but to me it's like very funny. And I feel like a lot of effort into it, but
Yeah, no, listen, it sounds great. I'm sorry. I as you're talking, I didn't realize I had a couple of websites up, and I'm getting messages, and all the bing bing bings are going off in my ear. So I'm trying to like listen to you, and I'm like, I got to go close out those websites. So that's what I was doing.
Fair enough. No worries.
But yeah, no, listen, that sounds hysterical. I mean, it sounds like you got a great sense of humor. I'm definitely gonna have to check out the humor.
And I think they're like $1 everywhere, because like on Amazon you can't, unless you like have a sale for free, which I never even looked into. Like I did it like as cheaply as possible, and like people wrote the best reviews. Like they were like parody review, like some of them were like they were all parody reviews. Like it still exists on like some of them are on Goodreads, like because Goodreads didn't take down the original book, but like yeah, people were very 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 fun about it. So that's like the second book was like, the first book was dedicated to like, I don't know, people who hate poetry or something, or maybe people who love poetry, I forget. And then the second one was for like the mischief makers, like and it has like the screenshots of the reviews, because once they took down the book all the reviews disappeared off Amazon, but I did screenshot a few of them, and they were like, there were some gems that were worth saving. So that was to my accomplices. And then my narrator, like he was there like along the whole way, and he actually is like going to do some work with ASAP now, because like anyone who gets that sense of humor, it's like you want to work with people like that, right? It's like someone who's willing to like go, and like, because we ran into so many obstacles, because it's just like, okay, now, like, because you have to, it's a 42-second book, but you have to have a 60-second like sample. so we had to come up with 18 seconds that like aren't a part of the book. So it was a fun, silly project.
Wow. No, it sounds fun. It sounds and listen, everything you got on, between what you've done on your own and what you're doing with ASAP just sounds fantastic. I'm as I've said to all the other ASAP people, I wish you nothing but the best of luck with everything you guys are doing. I think you got a great company. You got a fan right here. I do need to own some of your stuff. I don't own that yet. But I will start picking stuff up soon. And I think what you guys do with Gig, what you do with the Anyone, what you do with your own world, I mean, everything is just is it's top notch. The way I'm seeing everything, and you guys seem to, like I said, get along good. And I think when you have that kind of relationship with people, the company is just going to grow just because of that. You're everyone's there supporting each other, helping each other out. It's and it's not just coworkers, it's friends. You become family. It's a whole different atmosphere than a regular gig.
Like it feels like it's too much fun to fail. It's kind of it's just like we'll make it work regardless of what obstacles there are.
Well, I'm gonna drop you backstage. Just hold out for a minute. But I want to thank you for coming on. I'm gonna just do my little wrap up. I will. I'll see you in a few. I mean, again, thanks for coming on. I really appreciate it. I had a great time talking.
Thanks for having me.
Anytime. You're always welcome back. And you guys, that was such a fun show. It was great getting to know Laurie. All these people from ASAP Imagination, just really good people. I mean, check out their stuff. You can get everything in the comments. I put Laurie's link tree in there. There is a link for asapimagination.com. For NE1, it's the letter N, the letter E, the number 1, world.com. You can check out all these stuff. Check out Babies with Rabies, because that just sounds fun. I love that one. Just the title alone cracked me up. But anyway, guys, I got a really cool guest next week. I will see you then. I might actually be streaming this weekend on Saturday. Not sure yet, but I think I have some cool stuff coming up if I can get everything together. Anyway, until then, have a great rest of your night, guys. Bye.